You see why the time we started, it's really like the American accent.
Not just by the time we started, but also by our person here. So let's welcome Mr. Kenichi Nishikawa. Kenichi is a senior social protection specialist working for the World Bank in the Southeast Asia Pacific region. Specifically, Kenichi provides support and advice for our colleagues in Bangladesh. Previously, before he joined the World Bank, Kenichi was Director of Implementation for the Ministry of Social Development in Mexico. And in this function, he was responsible for public works, migrant farm workers, and social pensions. So please join me in welcoming Kenichi.
So this is going to be a talk session because we just had lunch, and it's the last two of the training session. So bear with me. We're going to entertain you, I promise you. So, and in discussing about so the way we're going to work today. So first, I'll do an intro to the tool. Then my friend Felix will present the application of the tool in the case of Peru. We'll have a break. We'll have a session for question and answer. Break. And then we'll come back for the clinic. Okay, so big question: why is ID important? Right now, there's a global identity gap in the world. 1.1 billion people in the world don't have a means to legally identify themselves. Why is this important? Because right now, because legal ID is basically provides access to the financial services. It's also a means to own and transfer land. From our perspective, it provides eligibility. It provides the way to prove eligibility to a social program or a social protection program, voter ID, to participate in the election process. And this is also very most recent type of discussions. It also provides assurance and security for those traveling across borders, right? Mainly migrants. And this results in economic, political, and social exclusion. It represents a challenge for our service delivery. In our case, is one of those cases. And it's typically tracking somebody from the moment they enter into a social protection program to the moment they leave our social protection program. So, at this moment, with the technology available, with the coverage of our social protection programs, identity is fundamental for the social, for the delivery, service delivery for social protection. Well, not only for social protection, but for health, for education. Let me give you some examples. Health. Peru is doing it's a good example of the work they've done, and we'll see some of the examples by our friend Felix. How they used the coverage and the expansion of coverage ID to include everybody in the universal health services, and also track children in the process of vaccination. Financial inclusion, that's a big issue. It just came from the payments side, and that's something that India has been doing. Has done 73 million new bank account open based on eKYC, using Aadhaar, which is their foundational database ID, and also has 472 million accounts linked to their ID system, which is called Aadhaar. Regional integration, that's something also Felix is a very nice example of how they've been doing regional integration in terms of mobility of people across borders and interoperability of ID databases amongst, in this case, South American countries. We also women's empowerment. The case of Uganda and Pakistan with NADA has increased, thanks to the NADA and the ID system, has increased female enrollment by 100%. South Africa, in terms of social protection, has using the foundational ID of South Africa, they've been able to have effected the duplication process, which has saved their country approximately $2 billion. In education, a good example is Thailand, which through the universal ID system they have over there, they've been able to include even stateless children. So what do we mean when we talk about ID? This is very important. So when we talk about ID, we're talking about two types. I want you to remember this. One is the functional IDs, and the other is the foundational IDs. Let me get into that definition. So functional IDs are those who have a purpose, a specific purpose, which is not necessarily to uniquely identify somebody. Right? Examples: voter registration. You have a social registry there. Bank ID. In Mexico, military service ID. University ID. School ID. Those have their own particular function.
Bank ID.
Oh, bank ID. You have it there. And actually,
functional ID.
it's a functional ID. I lost it. I have to pay $25 last time I was in the
It's
bank.
not useful for anything else except entering my office.
But it has the purpose of verifying Anush's identity at the moment she comes in, right? So it has a specific function. We have an ID here also, right? That's a function of interacting. I would call that a functional ID. But a foundational ID has the purpose of providing legal identification in a country, a territory, for a person from birth to death. So we're talking about civil registration, and we're also talking about the foundational IDs. Where sometimes in some countries is DNID, in some countries is citizenship ID, etc. Why? And this is a question we come from social protection. Why is ID important for social protection? So normally we have, this is a very synthesized way of looking at the delivery cycle. But we have an enrollment process, MIS, monitoring, management of information, and then a payment process. So we need to know at the moment of enrollment if we are enrolling the right person. We need to keep track of the history of that person. And we need to know if we paid the right person. ID provides you reliable source to validate identity, so you can avoid inclusion errors and the duplicities within your database. ID is a unique identifier to help you track and monitor the movements, history of each of your beneficiaries. And it's a reliable source of authentication. This is fundamental. So one of the things that we've been using it for a lot, you saw in the payments area, I don't know if you discussed this, how much you discussed it, but ID is basically a way to authenticate that the person you're delivering the money to is actually the person who's in your beneficiary registry, who's eligible. And that helps us avoid payment leakages, which is one of the biggest issues that we have. Okay, just to mention, so this is from the program's perspective. If we're looking at from the bucket perspective of a program, this is from the program's perspective. Let's look at from the system's perspective now. How does ID support the ID system? It provides interoperability. We're going to be discussing this word interoperability because it's very important that we distinguish between integration and interoperability, especially with this type of information. We'll go more in depth in that. So here you have a system where you have social welfare, you have social security, you have Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education. And what does the ID provide? The ID provides interoperability through a common unique identifier. What is a common unique identifier? The number that the ID agency provides you. But it's a common number that each of the participating ministries can actually use to know that that person is being served, is receiving some payments at this point, is receiving some workshops here. But let's say another thing at the system's perspective, it provides portability. That is, and I'll give you an example of a bad case of portability so you can understand it better. But it's about having your benefits in one agency, one ministry, and being able to move those benefits to another in a seamless way. I'll show you that with pensions. So let me. This is a case. Mexico is a country case that I know of because I was a civil servant there for 8 years, and Mexico is a case that we don't have a good ID system. And look at this. This is a middle-income country with a bad ID system. Just to give you an idea how bad it is. But we have 120 million people, inhabitants in the country, and we have 180 million active unique IDs. How unique is it? So, I did the ID assessment for Mexico using the ISPA tool, and at the end I found out that I had two unique IDs.
So how do you have 120 million?
Because of the census. That's the only. So this is okay. Bear with me. This is in Spanish, but I'm going to show you what this is. This is actually the part of the survey that all Mexican social protection programs has to inquire to each of the applicants. Right? If you want to apply to a social protection to a public works program, you have to use this survey. You have to apply to the Prospera program. How many of you know Prospera? Prospera used to be called Oportunidades, and before that was Progresa. Right? Every time the political party changed, the program stayed the same. We just changed the name of the program. Right? It's a good way of making it state policies. So, but look at this. So it gives you actually 9 types of options of ID you can request. You can provide. First, you can provide the voter ID. If you don't have a voter ID, you can provide a military service ID. You can provide a passport number. You can provide a local authority letter saying that you are who you are. That's a mayor saying, this Kenichi Nishikawa is Kenichi Nishikawa and he lives here. Right. Then you have a migratory form, ID. You have personal identity card. You have senior citizen support program card. You have professional accreditation card. You can also provide none because it's not required in the Mexican according to the federal social development law in Mexico. ID cannot be a requirement to enter any program. The supposedly unique population registry number, that's the one I have too, and birth certificate. Okay. What happens with this? I'm going to show you. I was talking last week to the person in Prospera, in charge of the beneficiary registry, and I was asking them, like, how do we deduplicate beneficiaries? How do you know if a new applicant comes into and applies to the program, whether you have them in your beneficiary registry or not? Right? If it's a duplicate or not. So we apply something that is called demographic deduplication. Right? It sounds very complicated, but it's not. Demographic deduplication, the definition also sounds complicated. It's a probabilistic method of matching individuals by comparing demographic information. What am I talking about? Name, middle name, last name, date of birth, place of birth, gender. And still sometimes this is not enough. Because in Mexico, when you're born a day of a saint, you're San Antonio, your name is Antonio, and you're a female, you're Antonio. So every female who was born in that day, and especially in small towns, probably you have it in your countries, that in small towns you only have 4 or 5 last names that are going around, right? Okay, so what happens here? First, when somebody submits their application, and this with all their demographic information, they compare 1 to n. When I say 1 to all the millions of individual data that we have. And you have a complete match, you have a partial match, and no match. First they compare the head of the household, then they compare each family member, and also if it's complete match, then it's a duplicate family, right? You consider a duplicate, it doesn't go into the program. If it's a partial match, they have an investigation protocol. Sometimes that investigation protocol has to send all the information to the local Prospera office so they can actually check the supporting documents. And when it's no match, you have a new household. That means that's a new beneficiary. And what happens here? Prospera, since we don't have a reliable ID number, they provide an ID number for the household, an ID number for each of the beneficiaries. So it becomes officially a functional ID. Right? So this is a social program that's actually fomenting the fragmentation of the ID system. And in Mexico, you know, they took 5 years to develop an algorithm to do this process. Right? So if you don't have this common identifier, you should be thinking of doing a professional way of demographic deduplication. Chile example. I always say, and I was telling you my friend Felix that we always go to Chile now. I get tired of Chile. Especially for me, Latin American, want to say, oh, hope they talk about Mexico next time. So Chile has a very good foundational idea. It's called RANO. And it basically means unique national number. And here's what the part of the survey, same as in Mexico, they require the national number for each of the members of the household. But it's only one number. It's not that in the case of Mexico, it's 9 potential options. Here, everybody has a run, so they provide the run number. And what happens? They check these numbers against the database. If it's a match, duplicate. No match, new beneficiary. Simple. Okay. Not only that, the fact that you have a unique identifier number, not only for your program, but for the rest of the programs, that means that for the rest of the ministries and across, in a transversal way, across the different agencies in the country, that means you can make it interoperable. Right? So you have this self-reported data that's in the questionnaire. You can also, you make it interoperable so you get information on their taxes, on their social security, on their pensions, on their land holdings. So you can have a lot of information due to this interoperability. Right? And you can also combine all the information and have a beneficiary registry of all, let's say, all the programs that you offer to citizens in your country. You can say, this person is receiving all these programs, from stipends to subsidies, etc. So the capacity, that a unique ID gives you is not only about the duplicating at the forefront and the end of the social protection program, but it's also about creating interoperability within a system. Okay, I'm Mexican, so I can criticize my system. Let me give you an example of the portability, of what is portability, of lack of portability, let's say in pensions. You have Juan Perez. Juan Perez worked in the private sector for 18 years. Then, and the private sector, same as a lot of countries, has its own pension scheme. Then he went to the government sector. The government sector has its own pension scheme. Juan Perez, then, okay, background. So a few years ago, there was a law that authorized uniting, consolidating the years of work in one pension system, combining it with the other, so you can retire when you add up both. Right? So in order for him to prove that Juan Perez, who worked in the private sector, was the same Juan Perez that worked in the government sector, he has to go to a public notary. You have to, that is the process. You have to go to a public notary, have them say in a statement that both Juan Perez are the same people. You request unification of accounts. It's authorized by the Social Security Authority, and then you can retire. Right? Felix was telling me is that by the time you die. Yeah? So let me show you another interesting example. Costa Rica. Costa Rica has been emulated the Chile Puente program. They created their own Puente al Desarrollo program, which is a case management program which is based on a one-stop shop, mobile, we can say one-stop shop, which is a social worker that goes to each household in a targeted household, does a diagnostic, and he's a one-stop shop for several programs, not only in his ministry, but in other ministries. So he does a diagnostic and agrees with the family on what social protection programs they're going to implement, they're going to have access to. He puts that information into a database. That database is shared for educational stipend with the Ministry of Education, for example, for preventive health workshop, Ministry of Health, for productive inclusion in the Social Welfare Ministry, and for housing improvement grant in the Ministry of Housing. And this is all enabled by by having a unique reference number. So databases can actually talk to each other. And you can, so in Mexico, I'm talking a lot about Mexico with my reference, but in Mexico we since 2006 we started applying the multi-dimensional poverty score. And we have the same, social problems are multidimensional in their causes. So interventions should be multidimensional. Right? This is an example of a program actually attacking the multidimensionality, but it's being enabled to a unique ID that's provided by the national system. Okay, conclusion in terms of the importance of ID for SP, for social protection. Well, any robust ID system is a fundamental component of an effective and efficient social protection system. It provides and avoids, it helps you avoid inclusion errors and duplicities, avoid payment leakages, because you're able to authenticate from a reliable source who is the person you're paying. You keep track of their history and progression. It facilitates interoperability, as I was mentioning, within a system. Provides portability of benefits. So all of this is enabled by a good ID system. So important questions we should all address when we're working on a social protection program, especially when we're designing a social protection program, is should we use the foundational ID? When we're designing or redesigning, let me say. So, should we use a functional ID? Sometimes functional IDs have more coverage and are better suited. Like in the case of Mexico, the electoral ID is better than the foundational ID. Or should we use our own program ID? I showed you the example of Prospera. They gave their own number, right? And that's the way they uniquely identify their own beneficiaries. So, and most importantly, can we improve the country's ID system for the benefit of everybody? Not only me as a social protection program. So those are the questions. For that, we have a ISPA ID assessment tool, which provides information, questions, criteria, in order to assess the ID system in your own country and be able to make those decisions. So it's the same as the other instruments. The ISPA tool follows the same structure. It has a what matters, what describes most of the things, all of the things that I just talked to you about: interoperability, validation, authentication. It's described here. It provides a good questionnaire. I'll discuss this in a minute. An assessment matrix and a country report. Let's go into the questionnaire. So the questionnaire is divided in 3 sections. First of all, you provide the background information of the study, of the assessment itself, the scope, the country background, the social protection background. Second, you go into the foundational part of it. Civil registration and ID. And whatever ID, let's say in the case of Bangladesh, it's an ID. In the case of other countries, it's the citizen registration or citizen number. And then you also have and here you talk about strategic issues. Okay, so I mentioned that. And first, and lastly, you have you analyze all the functional IDs. So you not only analyze the foundational part, but also the functional IDs. This is an example that I did for Mexico, and it's just a table. It's not the result, but it's in analyzing the functional IDs. Look at all the number of functional IDs. Here I put the name of the ID, the purpose, the agency, the potential coverage, and the actual coverage. Now let's look at the assessment matrix. So the most interesting part of this of the ID assessment tool, it provides you a set of well-explained and easy-to-use criteria that allows you to assess several issues, and I'm going to discuss each of those. First is the coverage and accessibility of the ID system, where you discuss what is the coverage of is it inclusive? Is it costly to access? This is very important, the last question. Does it have an active approach to enrollment? Because you have ID systems which basically people sit in their office waiting for people to come and enroll, and you have other ID systems that actually have are very very good outreach. So they're actually going to communities in very far away locations to go and enroll the most excluded members of the society. Then you have a criteria of robustness and systems of the systems and its information. Basic question: is the record unique? Can I say that about Mexico? No. Is it secure? Does it have effective authentication procedures? You have the example of Aadhaar in India, which which people interact with that system. And if you're a financial sector, you can, if the person presents his ID number and you have a means to take his biometric, you can send that query to the other system, and the other system will say this person who has this biometric is the owner of this ID number, right? And it just tells the bank or whatever the payment service provider, it says yes or no. Cost. Does the benefits of the cost of delivering the ID, how does it compare to the benefits provided? It's a basic question. In terms of coherence, interoperability, and integration, how does the ID number support those things that we were talking about, interoperability of the system? And this is fundamental. This discussion. Governance and respect for rights and dignity. Does it have governance structure? So, basic question: do you have a law that guarantees the protection and confidentiality of the personal information? But it's not only about having the law, but it's also having the institutional capacity, having whoever supervises and makes sure that those who are users of the information from the ID system are protecting your information. So the ID tool provides for each of the criteria. It actually gives you the set of questions to ask and the answer to the things you need to know to assess each of those criteria. Here's an example of criterion D: coherence, interoperability, and integration. How is the ID database linked to the birth and death registries? Finally, it also provides you a way of qualifying or a 4-point scale to organize and summarize your findings in terms of if the ID system is latent in terms of accessibility, is it emergent, is it moderate, is it advanced? We'll see an example of how Peru did it, so you can have more information and know how this works. And it also has a process. You first, same as most of the work, you first start with secondary data. You do the test review. Then you go and do field engagements where you interview all the stakeholders in the ID system. You draft a report and you validate. This final point is fundamental. It's about when we talk about validating, it's actually talking to the different stakeholders presenting your results and agreeing on common ground in terms of policy suggestions. And then I can actually have a good, let's say, you can build a good dialogue when you have several of the stakeholders that want to change and want to improve the ID system for the benefit of everybody. And with this, I finish this part, and I'll give the microphone to Philip. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kenichi. Let me just briefly introduce Felix Ortega de Torre. Felix Ortega is an employee of the National Registry of Identification and Civil Status, REINIC, in Peru. And he's not just a regular employee, he's a cabinet advisor of REINIC and an international advisor to the CEO of REINIC. Yeah. However, Felix also had a life before he joined REINIC in Peru. He worked for 15 years in the OAS, an Organization of American States in Washington, D.C. And as such, he provided advice for establishing IT systems in 20 Latin American Caribbean countries. Please, warm welcome to Felix, who also had to apply the ISPA tool in Peru.
Thank you. Arturo, thank you, the World Bank Group. Thank you, Anush and your team, to have the opportunity to be here. Thank you to the local authorities. And for me, really, it's very amazing to learn from you, sir. So let me introduce my country and my organization. This is a little index, or I will talk about the context to application regarding ISPA and good practice lesson learned. This is Peru, and we are in South American. We have a border with countries like Colombia, Ecuador, Brazil, Bolivia, and Chile. Now we have 33 million of population. The GDP is 192 billions. And the social programs, at this time, for all social programs, we are using approximately 4% of the budget. The per capita is 6,500 US dollar. We multiply by 3 in maybe in 15 years. So 15 years ago, we have per capita only 2,000 US dollar. Then I have the opportunity to invite you to know my country and to know our best tourist place. It's named Machu Picchu. This is the Inca palace, and of course we have to invite you a very excellent food, and we are exploring this culinary art around the world. After this little commercial, I will play our Reneg. Reneg is an autonomous institution, public institution, but we are not working under the government. Okay, so it has been created in 1995. At this time, we have about 21 years working on that. Our budget is 120 millions US dollar. From that, the 35% we self-generated through service to the private sector. So I will explain later. Then we have the 65% of the income is self-generated through certification of birth or marriage and death, and of course we have a fee for the ID card. And the other last and 50% is important to say because the poverty people in my country receive all our services for free. But this amount we are getting from the central government of my country. We have 4,000 workers around the country. We have 200 offices totally connected through technology. 1,200 more local offices connected, and we have 154 offices inside the hospitals to catch up the opportunity to do the registration before the mother leaves the hospital. Well, this is some statistics. You see that we started on 2011, the percent of the people registered and with identification. So before the ISPA, when I remarked this area, red area, because before ISPA we have something like a frozen timing. We don't know how much, what we can do to reach the 100% of the people registered. So we heard about the ISPA from the World Bank. They have connected with us, and really for us, we saw that a big opportunity. Not only to use a tool. I will explain. We saw for different reasons. For an assessment tool, we saw for the opportunity to sit on the same table with different stakeholders or partnerships. And of course, we saw the opportunity to see or to compare our system against other countries around the world. I'm telling to you the benchmarking. After we used the ISPA tool, and at this time we have a 99.3% of our population totally registered, and including they have the ID card from birth, the babies up to the other people, of course. Well, let me explain about the ISPA. Before to hear about the ISPA, we stayed working know what happened with our system, how we can improve the identification system to use for another social program principally, because on the last 20 years in my country, we have a very good economical growth. So the government say we have a good economical, so we have to distribute around the world, around the country, and principally for the vulnerable population. So at that time we say, but we don't know who are the vulnerable population. Where are they? So we need to know how we can produce or use the ID card, and then the social program has to use that. So this is a principal concept before we hear ISPA tools. So we are talking about how we can improve accessibility, robustness, and interoperation, and governance and respect, of course. Then, which alternative we consider at that time? Of course, first of all, we were thinking about how we can connect all programs, social programs. How? Because we saw that each social program work by themselves, but we are losing a lot of money and a lot of timing to recognize, as Kenichi say, who is the correct beneficiary. We want to try to eliminate different documents. Like in Mexico, we have different documents for military proposal, for license driver, for health, education, and so on. And now we eliminate everything, and we have only one document. Mobile campaigns, we are, in some cases, for example, the health sector, we deployed people to do the vaccination plan, but they found children that they have not registered, or in some cases, because we have not a system to deduplicate information, so some children receive two or three times the same vaccination. So the leaking is high, and the coverage is low. Well, at this time, we heard about ISPA. World Bank call us, and they come into my country, and we work together, and we say how we can use ISPA into my country, into my institution regarding identification and civil resident identification. First of all, we coordinate and we decide to define some structure for all programs, and of course including a REDIEC. But we need a high-level authority to coordinate all of them. So the decision was all the coordination is under the Prime Minister's offices. Secondly, we have to align all our strategic plan through ISPA and the modernization of the state, aligned for the modernization state that we have. The legal work framework, of course, we know that we have to change. In some cases, only with some modification. In other cases, we need to create a legal framework, for example, data protection law. Then we defined at that time that very important regarding budget. I'm talking about a result-based budget. This means, for us, if we need to $1 million to do registration for some area, and we are talking about maybe 1,000 people to do the registration, the government gives us the money if we are getting or we are doing that process. We are bringing more and more identification. If we cannot demonstrate that we are doing this registration, we will not receive money. And the same for health, the same for education, and so on. So all the program has to demonstrate are improving the services. How we recognize the stakeholder? Well, again, the government define priorities, reduce the poverty, of course, distributions, improve the infrastructure. Then they ask which ministry or which public agency are working on that, and call all of us on the same table, and we have to work together, and we have to create the same plan, one plan, and we have to define the strategic, the operational actions, quiz that is ISPA. It was the opportunity that we saw at this time. At the same time, the government say, okay, I call all public agency, but I want to know which international organization is working in our country for these sectors, health, education, and so on. We call all the international organizations. We work now with UNICEF, we work with the Germany Cooperation, we work with the FAO, we work with the International Organization for Work. That means all of the international is around the strategy through ISPA. Always through ISPA. Not, again, we are not using ISPA only to do some assessment. We are using ISPA to follow if we are doing good, to coordinate with different stakeholders, and to do a benchmarking if we are doing a best process or best model. The data collection, we have in Peru the Statistics National Institute, and they, of course, as the mind of the country, they do the census each 10 years, but they have people working on the field and to update the data. For example, if some family is poverty, then after receive the different social program and economical, we have a clue in my country, if this family reach another level, economical level, or they are losing the opportunity, and so they are become a poverty. So why? Because for us, the social program is totally dynamic. It's not necessary to bring the same services forever. Maybe the family got a good job or got a business, so we eliminate from the social program, right? This Statistics Institute help us on this. Each social program bring all numbers with all information. We cross all the social program at the time to work with the base of RENIEC. So we decide that all program is mandatory to use the information that we have in our database. Nobody can move without this information. For example, when we cross information from health or from school food and vaccination, the health sector said at this area they said they expect to have 10,000 children and they deployed 10,000 vaccination, but when they cross with the education information, the education sector say only exists 1,000 children in this area. So the question is, what about the remaining 9,000 vaccination or food or pension? So we saw that leaking has been amazing in my country, and with ISPA tool, the idea is to eliminate this leaking. The validation after we are using ISPA in the middle, for us, we are comparing permanently the information from census and how many people we have record and delivering using the ID card. The other is how many indigenous people we are bringing the identification, and the other sector are comparison if the indigenous are receiving or not the social program that we planned. Dynamic feedback from all partnership. We have again we are getting value if we reach our goals. Example of application the assessment criteria. The percentage of people registered and identification card usage, accessibility. For us, it's very important how many people in in my country has SIM registration and identification card. Our principal goal is to reach 100% of the people totally registered. Percent of people registered into the universal health insurance. We have some special social program in my country. All Peruvian has insurance, health, private insurance, worker insurance. If some people have not work or have not private insurance, the government bring to them medical services, at least some medical services and medicines. So for this activity, we are trying to know if the identification really helping to the health sector with this social program. The same is for robustness. Again, we define and we put it in the principal objectives to reduce the leaking and of course to try to eliminate the leaking. It means the services will bring to the beneficiary that is a correct beneficiary. We are not duplicating services, or we are not remainder people without any services. Yeah. About the robustness, we know that when we compare, as Kenichi said, we compare only demographic data, it's impossible to have an accuracy of the information, because if I want to get some services, especially money, especially cash transfer, okay, I will try to have 2 records or 3 or 4 records. So in the first time, I will do the registration like a Felix, the second like a John, the third like Andrew, etc. If you are using only comparison the demographic data, you never find my different records. The only way that you can find and to have the accuracy information for each beneficiary is each person is through fingerprint or facial comparisons, biometric information. At this time, we have not another choice. This is the only option that we can use to be sure to bring the services only for one person. We use the identification data for all social program interoperability. At this time, all public sector and private sector are using our database. They cannot move for any delivery services if they not query our database to be sure who is with the person. Regarding the respect of right, we are bringing identification card for the indigenous people in their language. Not only inside my country, it's the same, but also outside from my country. For example, in the United States, we have a lot of Peruvians there, totally with the ID card, and this document for them is writing in Spanish and in English. So they can use this document inside the United States. We have a registration inside daycare for child in Amazon. We are doing registration inside jails, inside hospital. We are moving around the world, around the country, and we are not waiting for the citizen. We move to them. Principally, if that person are in the poor situation, because for them maybe the transport is very high, or they cannot move to protect a little business or the house, so we move them. And we move every day. We have not mobile campaign exceptionally. We have a mobile campaign every day. For example, the last year we did something like 2,000 mobile campaigns in my country. So maybe small mobile campaign, but we move. And we move not alone. We move with health sector, with education sector, with justice sections. So we're sharing resources, we're sharing planning, we're sharing people, and they win because they can provide the good services for the right person, and we win because we do the registration at the same time. And at the same time, we are delivering the ID card. After we work 2 years with the ISPA tool, we remark according to us, responding to all. Regarding interoperability, we are getting progress, but we have to work more because now we are trying to use more security intercommunication. For example, only use a fingerprint. In some cases, the people are receiving some benefits from the social program, and now we are requesting only a fingerprint. We don't need the physical document. We don't need to bring me your name. We don't need nothing. Only please put your fingerprint, and we know who is you. But of course, this is a tremendous technology use. So, but we are in the same direction, and I saw through ISPA again. We are learning from the better model through ISPA. We saw this system from India. They're using digital identity to include for all electronic transaction in the country. We feel it at Summit, but also we feel each of column regarding the coverage. Let me try only to highlight some components regarding coverage. Again, we have 99.3% of people totally rated and with ID card. We have inclusiveness. We have multilingual registration. We have attention in hospital, jails, daycares, and so on. We have a special registration office into the indigenous community. We work with the leader of the indigenous community, always. In the language, in the culture, we respect the name, we respect area, etc., etc. Regarding the preparedness, we have a vulnerable population for free cost. Approximately 15% of the people of Peru are receiving all services by free. What's mean vulnerable population? This is defined by Prime Minister. We don't define who is poor. It's defined for the Prime Minister. 0 to 3 years, always is free. 65 years old, free, and extremely poverty areas. The other is a multi-sectoral design, the ID system. When we want to change something, we want to move forward for any project, we call to all our partnership and to say then, look, we want to do that, to involve in our plan. And after we asking if they can help us or not, or how we can work together, because it's a relationship win-to-win, always. And always we use pilot plan. We never move with a big plan if we don't, before to do the pilot plan. In a small city, we have not ambition, too much ambition. After the pilot plan, we review by all our partnership. We have to do some correction. After that, we move with a big project. Robustness, well, we are using, as Kim said, we are using only ID unit number for all citizens, and we provide this number since the new April for up to the for all the life cycle. No? We are using biometric systems. Again, regarding the reliable, RENIC is using for all public sector and all private sector. The bank, if you want to do some transaction in the bank asking to you regarding your document. If you don't have, you cannot do the transaction. If the child wants to travel inside the Peru through bus, the driver asking for the ID card of the child. And then compares the information at that side who is traveling with the child. At that side we have the name of father and or the name of mother. If they don't have the ID card, they can travel, but we move very fast with our mobility office to do the registration for the child. That is the last time that the child traveled with no document. But the next time, that the child cannot travel, really. And we have a lot of problems. We have different demand on justice area, but this is our goal is to prohibit, to eliminate human trafficking. This is the goal. Information technology, we invest a lot of money really in technology, principally for biometric systems. The maintenance, again, we have self-sustainable economical income by our services. Again, very easy to operate. We don't move without payment. Interoperability, all are asking for us, all the social problems moving through our information. All. If it's the government wants to create another social program, the first mandatory in the law say you have to work to consult if the people exist in RENIEC, the date of birth, and so on. Portability, my ID card, at this time I can travel for 9 different countries in my region without passport, only using my ID card. Again, we are trying to bring more and more services from the identification system in my country. Very easy. Only give me your identification number, or now we are working that don't give me this, anything, please put your fingerprint. And we know who is what. Automatically. We don't move to different agencies to know who are who. No. And RENIEC has only the information regarding people, it means surname, name, date of birth, place of birth, the minimum of that. The health sector has all the information that we have not access. It's not our business. The health sector maybe has how many medical services they receive, the weight of the baby, or it's a vaccination, and so on. But the health sector has no information, the name, date of birth, surname, place of birth, because we have that. They have unit number, code, plus health information. Education, unit number code, plus education information. Maybe which school is studying, which grade is the child, or about the portability, as Kenichi comments, now we started a program which interoperate between different countries to protect our citizens, to protect the citizens of the region, to eliminate or to avoid that human trafficking. So, for example, now we're working on that. See, some people are coming to my country and wants to try to get some service or to get some identification, or principally is included in some criminal situation. We asking only for fingerprint. Give me your fingerprint. We check if we have in our database. If we have not, we send the image of the fingerprint to Bolivia. And Bolivia responds, yes or no. That's it. We have no more information. We found, sadly news, but we found at this time very young girls working in my country, of course in prostitution, and with this information we are capturing mafias, international mafia regarding human trafficking. This is the idea, to interoperate with other countries, to protect, not to involve, to try to get particular information or confidential information, is to protect. And now we have signed an MOU with Colombia, Ecuador, Panama, Costa Rica, and we will expand to Chile, Brazil, and so on. Regarding governance, all public agencies again are involved on our plan, UNICEF, and other international cooperation. Regarding institutional capacity, we have 85% of the income generated by ourselves, so it means we have the financial capacity to continue improve our performance on the identification. We have a protection data law. After the ISPA is coming to my country, we saw that the importance or mandatory to create a data protection law. Because health sector are using or saving data or recording data in database, we are record data, education and so on. So the idea was we have to protect principally children data information. We are not sharing all information with all public agencies. It depends of your level, depends of how you want to do with this data. And this is decided by Prime Minister office. So I bring to you information if really you need for your job. If you don't need, we will not bring to you information from our database. Okay, so this is the last thing. Let me explain why identification is more than social problem. Remember the importance to connect the identification and social problem. No? We have two principal objectives: reduce leaking and improve the coverage. But the identification is more than that. At this time with ISPA, we saw that the real key is the assessment. It means we are not moving because we want to do that. No, we are moving because we have to bring or to demonstrate our results. That ISPA tool show us that. Secondly, ISPA is, for us was a very, very important tool because at that time we recover information for all of our country, for different organizations. So we sharing information that really never before I saw. The ISPA is not only for this assessment, for us is to permit integration for different organizations. It's mandatory now, it's mandatory to connect all social programs. Look in the plan include inside the ISPA. Social pension, of course, scholarship for young in a poverty situation. And in money is we are using approximately 2 billion US dollar by year, and this is almost 4% of the public budget. This is some picture of regarding the progress of my country. On the left, you can see the poverty, the evolution of the poverty. We reduced from 45%. 47%, now we have only 21% in 15 years. We are moving to try to have only in the next 3 years 60% at the maximum. This is the mortality rate of infants. This is that investment of government for social program. We are increasing, and this is the school enrollment. Again, we are increasing the education indicators. This is how many queries we are bringing for private sector and public sector. We are talking about 1 billion queries, and only we are 33 million, right? And this is the last final thing regarding identification with more than the social problem. Identification is right to the name, affiliation, nationality. Identification is democracy to both identification security and trafficking to the risk to work with the digital world. It's a good business to invest on identification because you win with to eliminating the leaking, and you win because your coverage is you can extend in a good way. Well, the technology is very important. Of course, the biometric system is a key to have accuracy information. Well, thank you for your attention. Really, I appreciate that. So,
Felix, thank you very much for this exhaustive presentation of Rhinebeck. I have to think I know everything and even a little bit more of Rhinebeck. We are in a unique situation to still have 5 minutes left for questions and answers. So, who wants to use the opportunity? Wow. Cool. Our colleague from Sri Lanka.
If you want, at the interest of time, you can also use the app to write questions and you can show them on the screen.
Thank you very much for your excellent and very informative presentation. I was wondering whether when you register the do the identification at the hospitals, whether you are issuing with biometric or fingerprints, or you are just issuing the unique number.
Well, regarding the technology, it's possible to get the biometric information from children, except if the children has 6 years older. Before that, it's not possible to use the biometric. We add the parents' information. Okay, because we can request the biometric information from parents.
Thank you. So the birth certificate has the unique ID number from the board?
Yes.
There's a couple of questions in the back. John? Oh. Okay.
Actually, I have 3 questions. For the first, thank you first for the wonderful presentation and very informative. First, I have a question for the first presenter. Can you elaborate more on the investigation protocol when there is a partial match? I'm now talking about the duplication component. Does it is this fully automated, or do you include field visit to verify if this, for example, this household is also the same with this household?
In the case of demographic duplication,
Yes.
right? Okay.
My second question is, second and third question is for the second presenter. First is about how did you harmonize about the data protection law and the function of sharing the data between your stakeholders? Actually, it's more on how did you maintain the interoperability with given the data protection law?
Great question.
And my last question is about the dynamic feedback. After the validation of the data collection, how do you harmonize the dynamic feedback? For example, if this program says that this person has updated his or her information, how is this feedback harmonized with other programs?
Okay, the first question. So you have in the demographic duplication, which is not the best scenario as we discussed, because it's the accuracy. It's an algorithm that was built in within Prospera, and actually is 90 to 95% accurate. So it has flaws. And so on the last part that mentioned that if it's a partial match, you create it goes into an investigation protocol. The investigation protocol has 2 steps. 1, go check the information at the local Prospera office, and you go and you compare with supporting documents. If that's not enough, there's a field visit and you visit physically the house. Right?
Regarding the information interoperability and data protection law, we have different information regarding each people, right? In the demographic data, we have the fingerprint information, picture information, and we bring the information, again, depend of your responsibility. For example, we have the address of each people in my country in database, but of course, we don't bring the address except if you distribute some social program house by house. If you are not a housing program, for example, if you don't need the address, we will not bring to you. So, and we have different layers. We have five layers to bring the information, and each label is approved for all the stakeholders around the table. So we don't move with all the stakeholders problem. Yeah. And secondly, regarding the second question. Okay, the National Institute of Statistics, National Institute, they deploy people permanently on the rural area, door by door, and they're asking to you and your family how much your income, if you buy some special thing that I can see that you are not poverty. With this information, they bring back to the social program components. So, but it's permanently. We are not only waiting for the census. No. The census is the baseline, but after they move here.
I have a follow-up question related to the data sharing protocol and data privacy. So, for the first presenter, you presented the case of Chile and Costa Rica also sharing data with other government agencies. And then for Peru, you share it with other countries. So how do you facilitate data shared information from the perspective of the let's say person who owns the information? Do you get consent when you collect information that you can share which fields of information? And then my second question is for the presenter for the Peru case. How do you relate the database of Reniec to the civil registry? Or they
There
ever?
are these two.
Oh, they are civil registry. Okay.
I think.
Yes, in the case of Peru, they have both civil registration and ID at the same office. Same as in Thailand and in other countries. But okay, Costa Rica, Panama, India is working in connecting ID with civil registration, but it's not connected at this moment. Okay, regarding your question about data sharing at the same time as protecting, that's one of the biggest discussions that is in the table right now. So the dialogue should be as part of the policy dialogue, because you have to protect data information of each citizen. You have to inform how you're using their information, but at the same time, it's a good practice to collect information so you can actually assess the person, if that person is eligible for your program. Let me give you an example. So let me distinguish two things. One thing is data integration, and one is data interoperability. Right? You have countries like ISAS in the case of Turkey, in Chile, in the case of their household registry, who are doing data interoperability. That's queries that are being done for with a need. So every time you identify a need of knowing this person's, let's say, socioeconomic status, you can do a query to the household ministry, but it's on a need-to-know basis. The opposite thing is data integration. Data integration is actually linking several layers of information. ID information is the first layer. Second layer, like we're doing, like in some cases you're doing socioeconomic data. Third layer, financial data, where you have the bank account of the person. Integrating the information is obviously, when you look at it from the supply side, from the government side, it sounds good, right? But at the same time, it gives you a lot of responsibility on managing that information. That information hits the internet, and it's public information, and it's owned by the world, right? So there's a big responsibility in integrating databases. So we have to be very careful when we talk about integration in terms of databases, right? So good practices that we see in the case of Turkey, the case of Chile, which is interoperability of databases.
I have two questions. First question is regarding the, when you start with the ID, particular mandate, ID to be the prerequisite for receiving some service, there is a trade-off because of particularly for the vulnerable people, they typically don't have ID to begin with. In your case, you have this mobile registration activity to proactively do that. But how fast you need to make this work to mandate nobody can receive anything without that ID. You still have, for example, 0.7% of the population don't have it. Then what happened to these people? Do they receive anything at all? So this is one question. It's a policy trade-off. The second question is on the technology side. We know actually there is an issue with this false acceptance rate or false rejection rate, even based on fingerprints. Like in India, Aadhaar actually recently had this issue, right? People actually lose benefit of food because their fingerprints cannot be recognized, and that is a huge political issue. So how do you actually square that to manage these exceptional cases? Okay.
Yeah, my group does that. Sometimes there's only two times.
Well, first of all, we have two different labels to do the registration. We have offices, status offices, physical offices, right, for the principal urban area, and we're waiting for the parents that they come in or the people to request us for the identification card or birth registration, marriage registration, and death registration, including offices inside the hospital, right? Because we want to do to catch up that opportunity to do the registration, and we are doing the death registration inside the hospital too. Yeah. This is first level. The second level, on the field, right? This is principle for poverty people, indigenous people, different language. We move them, we move for this area together with another social program, with health sector, with education sector. We are doing enrollment people inside the schools in coordination with the health education sector. And we are doing that every day. We are not talking about exceptionally one time a year, because if we want to do only, for example, one time a year, we know that our under registration will increase. So the idea is to catch up that, or to reach 100% and to maintain. The only way that you can maintain for this area is to move there, But if you want to move along, it's very expensive. And can you say before? The people don't need the ID card. They don't recognize some direct benefit. So okay, I have the ID card. So now what can I do with that? But if they can see the ID card to permit or to build a bridge to get a cash transfer or medical services, that people wants to do the identification card. Okay, regarding the biometrics, of course, we have around the world, we are losing the fingerprint, principally farmers or people that are working with the chemical products. For that issue, we are using 10 fingerprint. If you lose this fingerprint, we use the secondary finger, the third, but we want to match any of fingerprint with the system. And now, of course, the other methodology around the world is using the face, the facial scanning. We have both. Fingerprint and facial scan. In India, I think they are using 3. And in Mexico, for example, when they try to do the identification for minor people, they want to use iris. In another country, we have, for example, a pilot plan now, we use DNA. Only for look at it. No, really, it's very expensive.
So you come to the office meeting to the.
No. In which problem we are using that? We are using only for children on the street, abandoned children. Why? Because when we are moving around the street to do some identification card, you ask him for the children, and he said that the name is Peter. The next week, you move around the street, and you can find the children in another block and say the name is Joseph. But really, the children don't want to do the lie. They want to be friendly, to bring information. The problem is, around the children exist mafias.
Yes.
So they provoke to change the name, and the only way that you can find or you can recognize is through the DNA. Again, to protect them. Only to protect them. And we are doing that. Only for children in abandoned situation.
I just want to mention one more thing. So biometrics can be used for two main ways to use biometrics. One is to deduplicate within your biodatabase, and the other is to authenticate. A case of Alar uses it for both. Germany only uses for the duplicate that information and never to authenticate information, to authenticate whatever transaction. Right? So we have to think, biometrics is not only about collecting and using it for everything. You have to think about, where do you store the biometrics? Are the biometrics in the chip in the card? What biometrics do you store in the chip in the card? Thailand stores these 2 fingers in the biometric card and uses these 2 fingers to authenticate, to deduplicate on the background. Right? So there's several systems. It's not only about yes or no about biometrics, it's about how you use them, how to protect that information.
Just very quickly, because we also had questions and answers
posed. So thanks for using the app. So I want to quickly answer. One was about the difference between social registries and identification systems. If you can say a quick word on that. And the other one was on what was the key factor that made it possible to achieve such wonderful progress in such short time through the ISPA tool. If you can quickly.
Let me touch the first one, and I'll answer it in a very simple way from this perspective. So the ID system, and let's talk about the foundational IDs. It's the first layer of information. It identifies, it's the purpose of identifying the person. Name, last name, address, gender, date of birth. That's a layer of information that a national ID normally has. When you talk about a social registry, you're talking about another layer, social economic information. You talk about necessary information to score the family, to know whether the family is eligible or not eligible, is that family poor or not poor. Okay? So these are two different layers of information. Thank you for the question.
So about how you can get success, I told you my experience gradually. We have 20 years working on this. We are getting the trust of different stakeholders. And let me tell you something with humility, but we have a private survey in my country to know which is the best or trusted, the most trusted institution in my country. We are in the first place the last 12 years. Now we have 87% of the people believe in us. So we win that in 20 years. This is our way. But I saw a different strategy, like India, for example. India is not gradually, but they deployed a big, massive campaign, right, to get the majority of the people with registration. I saw that in different countries too. It's possible to do that, but you have to use a lot of funds and to mobilize a lot of institutions at the same time.